Our podcast reviews well-known movies and contains spoilers. The podcast may contain mature subject matter and mature language. Listener discretion is advised. Enjoy the show.
Quiet on set. Places, everybody. And action.
It's time once again for the Hooked on Movies podcast. Today's movie is the final in our series celebrating people we have lost in 2023. The movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, released in 1985, is celebrating the actor Paul Reubens, who passed away on July 30th of last year. With me are Ken.
That's my name. Don't wear it out.
And Ted.
You don't want to get messed up with a guy like me. I'm a loner, a rebel.
And I'm Eric. The stars at night are big and bright.
Deep in the heart of Texas.
All right. B for effort. Nice job, guys. Nice job. All right. We are doing...
I at least clapped.
Yes, you did. That's the whole thing. You had to clap.
Ted
That's
has
fine.
clapped. So.
I know. Way to participate. So we are doing Pee-wee's Big Adventure from 1985. Give us the synopsis of this one, Ken.
Pee-wee Herman, eccentric, childlike man, loves his red bicycle and will not sell it to his envious neighbor, Francis. While Pee-wee visits his friend Dottie, the bike is stolen. Thinking his bike is at the Alamo, Pee-wee sets off on a trip where he meets many remarkable people, including waitress Simone and a motorcycle gang. Eventually, Pee-wee discovers that his bike is being used in a movie and tries to recover it.
That's
Pee-wee
pretty much the synopsis of it. Yeah.
All right, so the podcast is over.
All right, everybody.
Give our
Thank you for
reviews.
playing. All right. Ted, come on. You give us the particulars. I know you have them.
Okay, the particulars. Pee-wee's Big Adventure is directed by Tim Burton with a screenplay by Phil Hartman, Paul Reubens, and Michael Varhol. It has a running time of a brutal 91 minutes, a release date of August 9th, 1985. It had a budget of $7 million and a box office gross of $40.9 million. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a certified fresh critic score of 88% and an audience score of 79%. And the poor doomed souls who were starring in this movie are, of course, Paul Reubens as Pee-wee Herman, E.G. Dolly as Dottie, Mike Holton as Francis Buxton, Diane Salinger as Simone, and Judd Omen as Mickey Morelli, an escaped convict.
Yeah, not a lot of big names there, of course.
No.
That's okay. It's all right. So I got to start this one off with Ken. Ken, first time you saw this movie?
Definitely cable when it first came out. So probably 86, 87, somewhere in there, between the ages of probably 14, 15 years old.
Don't you picture Ken wearing the suit in line at the theater? Yeah.
With the platform shoes.
Sure do.
Yeah, with his hair slicked back and the bow tie. That's what I picture.
Doing the dance.
Looking
man.
for kids.
Doing the dance. Ted?
I saw this movie when I was a kid. I don't even remember the first time I saw it.
Tried to block it out.
Yeah.
I know. We're bringing back horrible childhood memories for Ted. I was
No.
going to say, for me, I don't know. I don't know when I saw this movie first. Probably cable would be my guess. I doubt I rented it, but I've seen it a couple times. So
Actually, what made me want to see this movie when I was a kid was his TV special, his HBO TV special, where it's basically Pee-wee's Playhouse, but an adult version of it with Phil Hartman, which was pretty cool.
tell us about that, Ken. An adult version of it? My mind goes in separate directions here.
It's not a dirty adult version, but it was a play for adults. I mean, the thing that probably comes closest is he has a woman strip, has this little doll that basically hypnotizes her and makes her get into her night outfit. So that's probably as dull as it gets. And then he sends her back on into the audience.
That sounds pretty spicy.
She was a plant. She wasn't she didn't really get hypnotized, of course. But
this is on HBO, like an HBO comedy series special?
Probably came out 81, 82, sometime around that time. It was this comedy special that actually made it possible for this movie to be made.
Crazy. All
Doesn't
right.
sound like how one thing would lead to the other.
Well, I think he was, what is it called? The comedy troupe that he was with,
The Groundlings.
the Groundlings. Most of those people were in that show. One thing about Pee Wee Herman or Paul Reubens is that he's kind of like Adam Sandler in a way, where he gets his friends into his movies and his plays and things of that nature. He's very big on giving to other actors and stuff.
And obviously the child, the early 80s Saturday morning show, how did that kind of spin off from an adult version of this?
Well, it spun it off from the Pee-wee's Adventure, the movie itself. That became the TV show afterwards. So it's kind of a comedy. Of course, he had to go into a more kid version. You could say this is kind of made for kids. I mean, adults can watch it.
Clearly,
but I mean, it's definitely, PG. It might have some innuendo here and there, but nothing that really just like right into your face, basically. But yeah, he then got offered in a TV show that was very successful. I wasn't a big fan of it, but at the time it was made for a younger audience, and by that time I was probably 16, 17 years old. But he had a lot of great guest stars, and I believe Lawrence Fishburne was in that as well. So, I mean...
Yeah, he's the biggest star to come off of the TV show.
Pee-wee's had, helped a lot of careers in his heyday.
So when did you stop dressing like him?
Pretty much right before he went to that movie theater and, jacked off and got in trouble. I think he was trying to get away from his persona. I think he was trying to get away from Pee-wee, because as soon as he got arrested, he told everybody who he was. I think he was trying to kill off that character.
Anyone who's done a little back history into Mr. Reubens knows he had a few tussles with the law in some prior instances, and had some interest in homoerotica magazines, collectibles. Kind of an interesting read about some of his hobbies.
A little bit too much about
I
this
do.
stuff there.
I little bit, but I don't dress like him. Some interesting hobbies and collectibles and stuff that he was known to have, and came out publicly and said, there's nothing wrong with this. There's no children in it. This is just kind of some of the stuff I'm into. Obviously, after CBS cut him off and, the arrest and all that stuff, he made an interesting comeback.
Well, the show was still in syndication on CBS. The reruns were still going on at the time until this all happened. All that stuff that you said, he probably did, but I think he threw it out there on purpose. I think he purposely got arrested. I just think there's part of him that wanted to get rid of that Pee-wee persona, and he goes on to other kind of movies, like Ted was talking off air, the movie Blow. He does movies like Mystery Men and tries to get away from
mainstream acting as compared to typecast as Pee Wee Herman.
Yeah, because he doesn't really revisit Pee Wee till towards the end. A few number of years back, he did another Pee Wee's Big Holiday, and I think that was because he got cancer, and I think he wanted to revisit it one more time.
Maybe. Well, let's dive right into the movie here, Ken. Tell us about part one here.
All right, Pee Wee Herman has a bicycle that he treasures and that his neighbor and enemy, Francis, desires. As Pee Wee goes on a shopping spree, his bike is stolen, but the police are not overly concerned with the theft. Pee Wee assumes Francis took it and confronts him, but Francis's father convinces Pee Wee that Francis wasn't responsible. Pee Wee offers $10,000 reward for the bike. Francis, who did indeed pay to have someone steal the bike, is worried about being caught and pays to have the bike sent away. That evening, Pee Wee holds an unsuccessful meeting of friends and neighbors to find the bike. He then visits a phony psychic who tells Pee Wee that his bike is in the basement of the Alamo. Pee Wee hitchhikes to Texas, getting rides from a fugitive convict named Mickey and from Large Marge, the ghost of a truck driver. At a truck stop, Pee Wee finds his wallet is missing and pays for his meal by washing dishes. He befriends Simone, a waitress who dreams of visiting Paris. As they watch the sun rise from within a roadside dinosaur statue, he encourages her to follow her dreams. But Simone tells him about her boyfriend, Andy, who disapproves. Andy appears and tries to attack Pee Wee, who escapes onto a moving train. Pee Wee arrives at the Alamo, but learns at the end of the guided tour that the building does not have a basement. I didn't know the Alamo didn't have a basement. I was a little disappointed too. That's the end of part 1.
Why would the Alamo have a basement?
I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I already know that Ted lost his sense of humor.
I was going to say, Ted, you didn't mention Jan Hooks in your stars. Minor part she has, but
yeah, it's just she's in it
Jan
for
Hooks.
five seconds.
It's Jan Hooks.
All her dialogue, by the way, improvised.
Is it really all improvised?
On
That's
the cuff.
awesome.
Yeah, and she does a great job because she sounds like she knows her stuff, and she's really into being a tour guide. So that's pretty cool.
Yes, she's cool.
She had some inner demons. Talking about Pee Wee Herman's demons, man, she had some serious demons herself, and
Yes,
she
she
died
did.
very young.
Saturday Night Live took a toll on her.
Can explain to me, maybe you can, what does Pee Wee Herman do for a living?
I say that he's a teacher. He's a school teacher. That's the only explanation I can have. He's off on the summer. He's riding his bike all over. That's the only explanation I have where he gets his money from. Either that he killed his parents and he's living off of their money.
Possibly.
There you go.
Yeah. Trust fund baby, clearly. So.
Because his whole persona screams pedophile.
Wow. His whole persona screams special needs, clearly. I guess it does kind of scream that. When you think about it, in this day and age, yes, it does scream. Anyone who had that kind of persona would not nearly be popular, get a TV show, hell, even get an HBO special. I don't think that would fly now.
I think it would fly more now. I disagree
know
with you guys, especially with the acceptings of a lot of different type of ways of being. I think he might even be just as successful now as he was back then. I think what made him successful back in the 80s is it was just a unique situation. Nobody had really tried to do what he was doing, and people took it as kind of like avant-garde, really different type of thing. It flew with some people, and other people, as we'll know in this podcast, it doesn't work with. But a lot of people did gravitate to this.
He had a very, very strong, loyal following, especially after the arrest. People really came to his aid and backed him against the network, against everyone who was throwing accusations at him. He had a lot of support from actors, producers, directors, friends. I was really surprised to read the amount of support that he had, because I remember it a different way when it happened.
Right. Me too.
I remember it being a lot different. Like, he's done. Write him off. He's gone. You'll never hear from him again.
Yeah, I remember.
And then he showed up on the MTV Music Awards a year later.
Yeah.
Right.
Heard any good jokes lately? Yeah.
Well, I think it's because we all saw the prison photo of him.
It wasn't good. It wasn't
good looking. It looked like you would say a pedophile.
Well, if you think about it, okay, you have a beloved childhood character who is caught masturbating in an adult movie theater. Unless you're Donald Trump, I don't think you're getting away with that.
You're probably
True.
right.
Yeah, I mean, that usually will kill the career of anyone.
Let's be honest about this comedy. Okay, first of all, I'm going to state up front, this comedy is subjective, and this comedy is not for me. However, I do believe that when you say avant-garde, this is a natural progression of people who didn't understand Andy Kaufman's humor, and this was the natural progression for those people. I'm going to play an infantile character who's essentially a large man boy and with no common sense and is just stupid. Whereas Andy Kaufman was like playing the long game. His characters had actual character. Andy Kaufman did things for shock value. And this is a natural progression of Andy Kaufman's comedy for people who didn't understand it.
Well, we think of Andy Kaufman's comedy. What did people gravitate towards when Andy Kaufman was at his height of his career?
Well, they immediately gravitate to Latka from Taxi.
Who was?
But that's not the funniest stuff that he ever did.
Who was basically Pee Wee Herman working at a taxi place.
No, it wasn't.
No,
he had that strange
another
voice.
Country.
Latka was from a made-up Eastern European country.
Right. But he was very childlike. He was very childlike, very innocent. type of character.
I wouldn't align him with Pee Wee Herman's character.
But that's not the funniest. That's not the funniest stuff. That
I'm not saying it's the funniest, Ted. I'm saying it's the most recognizable. Just like maybe Pee Wee's not the best thing that Paul Reubens ever did, but it's the most recognizable because more people gravitated to it.
And it made him a fuck ton load of money.
Oh,
$25 million.
Oh, more than that. I'm sure after licensing and everything. If he owned the licensing contracts to rights to all of the Pee Wee Herman stuff, he made hundreds of millions of dollars.
Pee Wee Herman doll. Like I said to Ted, where did Pee Wee Herman touch you? Show me on this doll.
It's just dumb. It's just lowbrow.
But the kids love it.
I was a kid. This was directed directly at me because I'm of that age. And as a kid, I didn't find it funny or amusing.
Which is interesting because most of the lines are what kids were saying back then in the 80s and early 90s.
No, I can relate to Ted.
I get that. And I probably said them too. But that doesn't make it funny.
Did not think he was very funny. I'm not watching Pee-wee's Playhouse. That's a little past my prime. But even when the movie came out, it was kind of like, all right, well. But like a lot of cult movies, they grow on you. And at some point, you're like, all right, it's not so bad. But then again, with some people, they're like, it's a pile of shit. I'm not watching this thing. I get it. Comic is subjective.
I think right out the beginning, where we come into his house and we see all his collection of things and how he makes breakfast. If you are already put off by that, the rest of the movie is going to put you off as well. I mean, we see Abraham Lincoln making pancakes, and he's got the dog there, and he's doing childlike things. He wears the bunny slippers that go after the carrot.
Yes.
If you don't like that kind of humor, then you're not going to get it. Whereas me, I really like that. I probably would talk to my cereal and go, "Hey Ken, do you want some Mr. T cereal? No, pretty little food that don't let my cereal." And I probably would say stuff like that because I'm kind of weird.
He still does.
Yeah. I just try to find, but I haven't found them.
So Ken, what did the Apple Jacks have to say to you this morning?
Apple Jacks, Cocoa Puffs.
Cocoa Puffs. I'm more of a tricks kind of guy. This tricks are
so
kids.
he was okay. So we can determine we don't know if he worked. Most likely not. Loves his bike. He doesn't have a car. Doesn't drive. He's clearly someone in his 20s who lives alone. We assume with his dog. Gets along with his neighbors for the most part when he waters his lawn with like a bazooka, and rides his bike, and it's his cherished possession, but his crazy. Is that his neighbor, Francis?
I hate his neighbor worse than I hate him.
He's really annoying.
Talk about watering his lawn. We had that little, whatever that thing is, like a water toy.
Yeah.
And so when we see something like that, it kind of was relatable to Pee-wee. So kids who saw certain things at the beginning of this movie could relate. And that's why it was funny to watch. The things that he was doing with making the cereals is very Charlie Chaplin, Modern Times like, where he's on, there are things there that they're paying homage to throughout the movie that if you don't really like that at that point in your life, then maybe you ain't going to get it.
Okay. But I agree with Ted. Francis' character was just annoying. Francis is...
Corey Feldman was supposed to be the
that's
guy. Corey Feldman.
Seriously? No, you need a...
He would have been way too young, though.
Yeah.
No, it was filming Goonies at the time.
But he would have been way too young.
Well, it depends on what you wanted to focus as a child. If Pee Wee Herman was the only child adult there, then that would make sense, right? It didn't matter who played, how old Francis' character was.
All right.
And the actor, and I've got the actor's name, he's also in movies like Teen Wolf.
I recognize the actor.
And he's also been in, he played the adult kid from A League of Their Own at the end when they're at the Hall of Fame.
Just his face. I don't know. There's something about that guy I just don't like. I don't know what it is.
On purpose, I think, at least on
No. I mean, even playing
the
adult
life,
son.
I think you're just
even playing the adult son in A League of His Own. It's just something about that guy. I don't know what it is. He just annoys me. You know, but he played the part really well in this as a little fat bastard son of a
I didn't
billionaire.
do it, Dad.
Yeah,
I know you are, but what am I? That's the
The
thing.
sad thing is they're both the same age, aren't they?
Most likely.
Yeah,
most likely.
Whatever. It's hard to really put things together with this movie, to be honest with you. But yeah,
there's a lot of sight gags also in this. When he comes over to Francis's house and does the knocking, then he tries to fool the butler by putting a knocker on the door while he sneaks behind. That's funny stuff. That's very airplane-like type of thing.
We have a very different identification of what's funny.
When he says stuff like, go ahead and scream, we're miles away from where anybody can hear you.
Yes.
For whatever reason, those type of lines are funny in those situations. I'm enjoying it. I wish I got to know.
Pee-wee has a naked boy in the tub.
Scream!
You're miles away.
Yeah. Actually, my favorite part in the first part is when he goes to the magic shop. And he's sitting there. He's looking over some stuff, and he's got the X-ray glasses, and he's checking out that lady because she's giving him that kind of weird look.
Well, everyone
That's
gives him a weird look.
That's kind of like the most adultish thing that's probably in this movie. Tim Burton, who directed it in this movie and ended up directing Batman. There's a lot of Batman references to this movie. The guy who owns the magic shop was in Batman. You also have the Batmobiles in this movie. There's another character in this movie.
Batmobile?
When he comes and visit Warren Brothers.
When he goes and visits the set looking for his bike.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when he first walks in, you can see the Batmobile driving by.
Yeah.
And then there was another character in this movie that actually was in the original Batman film as well. So there's little homages here and there to Batman. I mean, there's homages to a lot of things. Tarzan, Hitchcock's Vertigo. There's just a lot of stuff that they're paying homage to, and I think it's well done. But the magic shop is kind of cool because I as a kid, I liked the magic thing.
You like the little head, human head, big head,
the little head, the big head. It's just the trick gum, and because trick gum is used later, and then later on they use the night vision goggles, which I think is pretty funny actually. But then the boomerang tide, that was a deleted scene. He used it later on in the movie, but when he was on the lot, and he was in one of those Western lots, and they just cut that scene. So
funny thing about me, I don't trust people who wear bow ties.
So you didn't care for Paul Simon, the senator of Illinois?
I could not trust Paul Simon, Louis Farrakhan,
Art
Garfunkel, my cat.
I like the setup. I like how the bike is stolen. Once the bike is stolen, all these other bikes that show up.
Yes,
it's just genius. You got the mime on the unicycle. It just cracks me up.
Total salt in the wound. Yeah,
all the different ways that Tim Burton is throwing these. And I guess they decided when they wrote this movie that they were going to write the screenplay based on another book they read on how to write a screenplay, and they took it verbatim. Basically, the script is 90 pages long, and each page is a minute. So
interesting.
They just went dot to dot to dot, the formula for a movie. I like this beginning. I really do.
Somebody has to. The thing is the whole beginning of the movie where he starts off in the morning routine, we saw stuff like that in Back to the Future. I don't find it amusing. He likes his bicycle. Well, other than the fact that it's a vintage, what is it? It's not a swing line. That's a stapler. Schwinn, or whatever it is. I mean, it's a classic bike. It's probably very expensive. It would make sense that you would cherish something like that. But ultimately, he's just a gigantic man-child. To me, it's lowbrow humor. It's going for cheap laughs.
I think the movie was geared more towards 8 years old, 9, 10-year-olds, preteens. It was definitely geared more towards preteens.
But see, I was that age, and I still didn't think it was funny.
Well, you don't have a sense of humor, apparently.
Yeah.
So you don't like lowbrow humor, is what you're saying?
I guess lowbrow is probably the wrong way to put it. It's childish humor. I can't believe that you can compare this to somebody like Charlie Chaplin. I mean,
not saying that it's on equal par.
What Charlie Chaplin was doing, one, he did it without any sound. they were gags that had to be done without sound.
It's physical humor.
So
Yeah,
I'll
it's
give you
physical humor.
a quick example. Goonies. We saw
Oh,
how
I
they
didn't
opened
like
up the
Goonies
gate
either.
in the Goonies. Exactly. I'm just pointing out how this is related to Goonies in a way, because when they opened up the gate with that gadget, you couldn't stand that. You didn't care for that.
No, that was dumb too. But it's something
Exactly. But that pays homage to an older time of movies. And you think it's fine for a silent film back in the 20s, but it's not okay in the 80s.
well, because I would hope that we progressed.
They're still funny. Just because it worked in the 20s doesn't mean it can't work in the 80s. And it can still work in the 20s now, the 2020s.
There's no way this movie gets made today. No way.
No, because kids aren't watching Saturday morning programming anymore. That ship
Right.
has sailed.
And I think that's
Yeah.
part of why I despised Pee-wee's Playhouse to begin with, was because I was a Saturday morning cartoon guy. I lived for Saturday morning cartoons, and when he came on, Saturday morning cartoons were done.
I can understand that.
And plus, it was stupid. To me, Pee-wee, the natural progression of Pee-wee is SpongeBob. And just mindless.
But SpongeBob's animated, though. Animated, you can go
But it's still mindless
crazy.
humor. It's still mindless humor.
Most animation is mindless humor. Even like Adult Swim on, Cartoon Network. That's mindless humor.
I mean, I would mildly disagree that there are some redeeming qualities of some animation. But
there is a lot of redeeming qualities on animation, but I'm saying live action, you have somewhat limits to what you can and can't do, but animation, you can, sky's the limit.
Right. Especially here in the 80s where, you don't have the technology to kind of get away with a lot of different crap. And so you have to rely on the star of the film to kind of make it all happen.
Take it like this. Okay, so I watched the movie with my daughter. She's 13 years old. So we're almost out of the range of what Pee-wee should be for them. They like a lot of different type of humor as well. She thought it was infantile. And she also said to me, when we talk about this first part of the movie, what Dottie is smoking, I don't know. But my daughter looked at me and she goes, he's actually turning down a girl who wants to date him? As a serious question. He's an idiot. He should be in an institution. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. He's crazy. He's a crazy person. This woman is actually interested in him, and he knows it. And he's just too wrapped up in being an idiot.
Well, he's a man boy.
Yeah.
Why does he have to go out with Dottie? Just because she likes him? He has to go out with her?
Yeah.
It would make the movie a lot more interesting.
Why would it make it more interesting? I think it makes it more interesting that he disses her.
It'd give the movie a point.
Are you leaning towards hardcore nudity or?
No, because God, I don't want to see that either.
But you want
Dottie's a cute girl,
Dottie's okay.
Yeah.
She's all right. I mean,
now she's actually interested in him.
Why she finds him appealing?
Doesn't matter if she's interested in him. He's not interested in her. He might know her since they were little kids. He just thinks of her as a friend. Did you ever have an attractive friend that you didn't want to do it with? I mean, come on.
No. Come on. No.
Well,
no.
I've had attractive friends I didn't want to have a relationship with.
Well.
So, we don't know what kind of person she is. She does seem kind of annoying a little bit too. I mean, granted, look, Pee-wee's pretty annoying probably as well. But right now, he doesn't maybe care about dating. I mean, there's no other women in this film that he goes gaga over. It's not
even Simone, who is infatuated with him too.
Yeah, Simone gives him a little bit of a, like a little crush there, and he just doesn't care about that. All he cares about is his bike. There's nothing wrong with that.
That's the way the movie's written, right? It's pretty much the
Blame
bike.
Phil Hartman, okay? The great Phil Hartman, if you want
to. They missed an opportunity. There's a potential for a funny joke to have the clown that he ties the bike to be the one that steals the bike. That would have been funny. That would have made me laugh.
The robotic clown?
Yeah.
My only problem with the clown and his bike being stolen, nobody saw somebody come along with like
Well,
go
you've already
cutters and steal the bike.
Okay, you've already suspended logic enough that you believe this man boy runs around without a purpose in life. Let's don't try to apply logic to the fact that nobody saw him steal the bike, because then the movie's over.
True.
And it's shockingly stupid that he calls the cops, and it's surprised that the cops aren't running out.
I think the cops are there more
crime.
because he passed out. I don't think they're there just because of the bike. I think he passed out. They brought the little gurney there and revived him back up. I don't think it's just because of the bike, because they tell him they don't really care about your bike. So they're being perfectly honest. I mean, it's nice enough that the town, part of the town wants to come to his basement there. I guess he has a basement, not the Alamo, and talk about all his, I don't know, what is he got, like 200 and something odd pieces of evidence.
What, his little QAnon meeting?
I actually find that again. I find that very interesting. I find it's almost kind of like Moby Dick. Captain Ahab's focused on one thing, and he can't listen to any type of reason because he's focused on the one thing.
Folks, you've heard it here. This is the first and only time Pee Wee Herman's Big Adventure will be compared to Moby Dick, one of the most classic novels in American history.
Wait till I share with you
and a great Led Zeppelin song.
Wait till I share my review.
A better Led Zeppelin song.
Yes.
But I mean, there's a lot of good stuff here. But probably the most iconic, well, outside of maybe the dance, and we'll talk about that in the second part, Large Marge. When he meets up with Large Marge, and we find out that she's a ghost. People talked about that for a very, very long time.
That's actually interesting. And it's like a very small part of the movie. But that's actually interesting. And you know what that's a reminder of? The Twilight Zone movie. When they're in the car at the beginning and Dan Aykroyd says, "You want to see something really scary?" And he turns and scares the guy in the car.
I really like that, and I also like the Mickey character, the convict who went to jail because he had to, don't cut the label off of the mattress.
Yeah,
remember those labels on mattresses?
The creepy cop that pulls him out of the car just to look at him in his dress.
Oh yeah, that's messed up. That's
really messed up.
And then he actually Mickey looks him up and down after he's in the car. He's kind of like taking a nice look at him. But I like Mickey's character. I think it's like that convict that's not serious. This is a family oriented film, so he can't be somebody who killed somebody or hurt somebody.
Mattress tags, right?
Right. Mattress tags. It's brilliant because we all wanted to cut those things, and as kids, we were afraid to do so
by federal law.
Right. I don't know why that was there. It's not on mattresses anymore, I don't believe.
Sure it is.
Is it?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't look at mattresses. Yeah. So it takes something like that and something serious like a convict, and it makes it lighthearted. And I think that's what this movie is. It's very lighthearted. It's trying to reach out to the inner kid inside of people. It's reaching out for kids that are, of a young age. The adults, it's trying to bring back that inner kid that we were when we were younger. And we were saying stuff like, "I know you are, but what am I?" Those lines that we hear so often in our childhood. And I think that's why it connects with so many people, is it does connect with their inner child. It's not going to connect with every kid. And it's not going to connect with every adult, as we see here on this podcast even. But there's a lot of people that it did.
The whole idea of going to the psychic and the psychic sending him to the basement of the Alamo, it's just so stupid.
That's supposed to be stupid. This whole movie is supposed to be stupid.
And it is.
Showing that the psychic is not real, plugs in the ball and lights up and smoke and just reads stuff on the, on the building behind her.
Going through his wallet, knowing what he loves.
Yes, exactly. And stealing his wallet, too, I believe. Right.
She stole his wallet because he says, "My wallet's missing," and nobody probably picks up on the fact that that's really good, Eric. It's probably still at her place.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, she should have been at the drive-in at the end of this movie. But
that's true, right? Everyone else was there, but she was not, right? But she lied to him. Yeah. Everyone else who was at the drive-in, one way or another, was friend or helped him.
I just think some of the psych gags are funny. Like when he's driving the car and they're showing all the different signs of how the road is going to be.
You like that? Yes.
It's funny for me because
goes off the cliff and the convertible top saves him and floats him down to the road.
Floats him down.
And where is he? Is he in like a zoo when he's walking around there and turns on his...
I think he's just in the wild. It's brief. It only shows for about a brief 2 seconds.
Yeah.
But you get to see all these different animals around him, and I think it's kind of funny. Go back to the signs. That is very airplane-like.
Yes.
Type of way of doing things. Hey, you're going to go around this wavy curve, and then they're going to make it more difficult and even more difficult. It pays homage to a lot of different films.
It does. That scene, at least.
No,
so Ted likes the one scene with Large Marge.
At least for part one, that's all he seems to care about.
The most interesting part.
Yeah, Simone, it's just it's weird because for the most part, except for Mickey, everyone, he pretty much just blends in like he's just everyday Joe walking around.
Right.
Granted, the motorcycle gang should have cut his throat and left him in the desert, but they didn't. But everyone just sees him as a normal everyday Joe walking around, which I think is
Simone's boyfriend, because Simone's boyfriend wants to
But
kill
again,
him, so.
Anyone who is going to be with Simone is going to piss off Andy, so that's a given.
And I don't like Simone. Actually, one of my least favorite characters is Simone. She's just a little kind of whiny a little bit. She's just complaining about her boyfriend, that she needs to go to Paris. And is she going to Paris or is she going to Paris, Texas? Because there's a Paris, Texas. So
there is a Paris, Texas.
So I'm assuming that's where she's really going.
Hard telling. But you made an interesting comment that everybody treats him like he's just something average.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big failure here. Because if everybody else was in on the joke and they didn't treat him like he was normal, and like what he does is normal, that's funny. Because he's now odd. And we're acknowledging the fact that he's odd and off. But nobody acknowledges that fact. And then you have an even deeper, if you want to say that this is for the kids, that it's okay to be odd. But everybody treats him like how he acts is okay. And that, that it's normal.
What does he do that shouldn't be allowed to do? What shouldn't he be allowed to do?
Act like a dipshit.
No, I'm serious. What should he not allow? You say, he shouldn't act the way he acts. What is he doing that should be off limits?
He's not acting like a normal human being.
As long as he fits into a box of what a normal human being acts, that's
calm down, party.
Exactly.
I don't know. It would have been funnier if people were not in and not treating him like everything's okay and that he's not a mental patient.
I think people look at him kind of awkward here and there. I don't think everybody treats him like he's God's gift to humanity. Dottie likes him,
deal.
Huh?
He ends up with a movie deal.
Oh, yeah, because it's a fantasy movie. But I'm talking about people that he meets along the way. Not everybody loves him. When he goes to the diner, the only one that really takes any type of interest in him is Simone. Everybody else is a little worried about him because he just rode with a ghost. And even the people that he is friends with back home, they walk out of him during his meeting with them. None of them stay.
It's because he's verbally abusing them.
So he's not being loved by everybody, like you said. They only take his shit up to a certain extent.
They wouldn't have showed up if they didn't love him.
Yeah, they're still his friends, but they know when to say, hey, you're off your rocker. We need to move on here. The reasons why people like him is because he's kind of innocent, childlike. He doesn't say dirty things. He doesn't say bad things to anybody except for maybe Francis. And Francis deserves it. And the only reason why Pee-wee even talks to him is because Francis is just trying to still, get his bike. I think they try to do different type of comedies throughout the film. You have your road, buddy movie with him and the convict together, and it's a short period of time, but they have to elude the cops, and there's just little things here and they change it up quickly. They don't stay with one particular thing very long, and that could be annoying for some people. And it could also be endearing because it keeps it fast moving. One thing we could say here is the pace is really good about this movie. It's a quick 1 hour and 30-minute movie.
Ken, why don't you take us into part 2 of the movie?
Okay. At a bus station, Pee-wee encounters Simone, who tells him she is on her way to Paris. She tells Pee-wee not to give up searching for his bike. Pee-wee calls Dottie and apologizes for his behavior. Andy spots Pee-wee and resumes chasing him. Pee-wee evades Andy at the rodeo by disguising himself as a bull rider. Forced to ride a bull, Pee-wee nearly sets a world record but is knocked out. He visits a biker bar to make a phone call, and a biker gang threatens to kill him after he accidentally knocks over the motorcycles. He wins them over by dancing to the song Tequila in a pair of platform shoes, and they give him a motorcycle for his journey, which he crashes immediately. He awakens in a hospital and sees on television that his bike is being used as a prop in a film. Pee-wee sneaks into Warner Brothers Studios with Milton Berle in Burbank and grabs the bike. Security guards chase him across the studio lot and through several active sets before he escapes. Pee-wee then discovers a burning pet shop and rescues the animals. The firefighters declare Pee-wee a hero, but the police arrest Pee-wee for intrusion at the studio. They return Pee-wee to the studio to face Warner Brothers president Terry Hawthorne. Hawthorne decides to drop the charges and return Pee-wee's bike and make his story into a film starring James Brolin as P.W. Herman and Morgan Fairchild as Dottie. In the film, presented as a James Bond parody, the characters must retrieve their stolen motorbike, which contains an important microfilm from the Soviets. Pee-wee has a cameo role as a hotel bellhop, though his voice has been dubbed. Seeing the film at the drive-in theater, Pee-wee gives refreshments to the different people he met along the journey. He also encounters Francis, who tells reporters he is Pee-wee's best friend and that he taught Pee-wee how to ride his bike. Francis claims to be knowledgeable about Pee-wee's bike, but sets off one of the bicycle's gadgets, catapulting him into the air. Ultimately, Pee-wee decides to depart with Dottie, claiming to have already lived the adventure on screen. The end.
Now, for me, that is the best part of the movie. Not the ending. I know that's normally my sarcastic humor, but the remake of his story with James Brolin.
Oh, yeah.
That part of the movie I thought was extremely funny. Ted, come on, that was funny, wasn't it?
It was
James Brolin,
yeah, that was pretty funny.
I know you are,
Mr. Harmon. Mr. Harmon. Yes,
And doesn't Paul Reubens play a bellhop in another movie?
He plays a waiter in the Blues Brothers.
Yes.
Yeah, I know that.
At the restaurant, right?
I want to say he plays that in another movie, dressed like that. I
believe you're right, but I can't remember the name of the movie myself. He has little cameos in a lot of movies throughout his early career. One of the ones that I remember off the top of my head is a movie called Midnight Madness with Michael J. Fox.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, he plays a game attendant who has a gun and shoots tokens into his hand. But I don't know. This is actually one of my least favorite parts. I don't know why. Maybe
seriously, why?
I think maybe perfect. As a child, first of all, I wasn't a big Morgan Fairchild fan. I never cared for her in anything really I ever saw her.
The only thing I remember about Morgan Fairchild is the SNL skit with John Lovitz. Where he's playing that the guy who lies constantly.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so it's like Morgan Fairchild, my wife.
Yeah,
I slept with. Yes.
Yes.
That's right.
Because James Brolin at this particular time, he's done some stuff. We did Amityville. We did the review of Amityville.
Oh, he was doing TV. He was doing like Falcon Crest and TV shows like that.
He hadn't, I don't think, built a great name for himself up to this point. And you could correct me if I'm wrong, but
people knew who he was, and Morgan Fairchild, obviously. Yeah.
Right. Maybe there I thought maybe it was a little bit much. I wasn't a big fan of the overdub.
But now you can appreciate the humor in it.
I can appreciate
the overdub
James
is funny.
Brolin.
The overdub is funny, correct.
The overdub's funny.
I don't have a big problem with it. It's just not my favorite part of the second half of the movie, that's for sure.
I like the dancing scene. It's probably the most iconic thing of the whole movie.
Everybody was doing that when we were kids. Everybody.
It's just awkward that it happens at a biker bar.
I don't think it's awkward. In fact, I think it's perfect in the sense that, okay, when he goes in there first time and of course says, "I'm trying to use the phone," and they basically kick him out, and then he accidentally hits the motorcycles, the look and sound that he makes on his face, that's great. It's perfect because he knows he fucked up. He knows he's in big trouble. Yeah, is everything else kind of weird? I mean, the last request is to dance on platform shoes to Tequila, but they don't really even like it until he starts throwing crap around, breaking stuff. So that's when they were like, yeah, that's our guy. So
we have an interesting cameo in the biker bar too. Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, plays the lady in the bar.
Oh yes, Elvira. That's right.
Good friends with Mr. Reubens. In fact, they show her picture in the magic shop when they first walk in.
You're right. They do. Yeah.
I say you let me have him first. But I do like that scene. It is very iconic. Everybody I knew was doing the Pee Wee Herman dance. We purposely would play the song Tequila to do it. And it was a stupid little dance. But people kept on doing it.
Yeah. It was of the era.
I thought it was interesting to see the guy that worked at the restaurant. He had the shoes on. When he took them off, he kind of like went down a whole foot.
Right. Yeah.
And those things are pretty funny. And then a lot of people think that when he gets on the bike and rides through that billboard that he's thrown off to the side, but that's actually part of the billboard, not actually the stunt double that went through
it. Stunt double. Yeah.
You caught their stunt doubles. Anyway.
You idiot. Before
that part where he's in the rodeo, he doesn't remember his name. This is where, again, Eric, you probably appreciate it. Do you know what your name is? No. Do you know where you're from? No. Do you remember anything? It's like, I remember the Alamo. And they all just
so
crazy.
Yes, correct. Yes.
These are just little things here and there that make me appreciate this movie. It's kind of weird that he sees his bike when he's in the hospital on TV to go, and then he knows how to get it. And how he gets into Warner Brothers by sneaking behind Milton Berle. Out of all the people in the world to get a cameo from, Milton Berle.
It's true.
I would never have thought.
But think about this.
Needed a payday.
Big payday. You've got Francis, who pays some goon to steal the bike, chickens out, pays the goon to get rid of the bike. What do you think the goon is going to do? He's just going to either scrap it or throw it in a dumpster. No, somehow it lands on a flatbed truck across country and somehow ends up in California.
See, this is where I think it could have been a little bit better. Maybe Ted would have appreciated this movie a little bit more.
History of the bike across country?
If you kept on having the bike show up in different spots that he's at and they keep on missing it. Like when he's with Mickey, the bike is right next to him.
Right.
And he doesn't realize it's there. Let's say maybe the bike is at the Alamo, but it's not in the basement, of course, because there's no basement. But it passes by him and he doesn't realize that it's right by him. I think that would be a nice sight gag. I think if you kept tending to do that on and on throughout the whole movie, it would go a long way.
Yeah, I would have appreciated it a little bit more. Stupid little sight gags like that.
It had to follow the rule of, the rule of 3 and 13.
Yeah.
If something's funny 3 times, the 4th time it stops being funny. But if you do it 13 times, it's the whole thing from The Simpsons where Krusty steps on the rake.
Yes.
I think if you showed it 3 times, you showed it once when he's with Mickey. If you found 2 other times to show it, I think that would have been really nice to do.
The one time it happens, I think it's dumb. Because there's no point of why he shouldn't have been looking over.
Because then he would have chased the bike and move you over.
Yeah, applying too much logic. But you also have a cameo here from Jason Hervey, the son from The Wonder Years.
Yes, as the snot-nosed actor.
He's perfect here, too.
Yes, he is.
Such a great
And rumor has it he's kind of like that in real life.
His career, what's he done? Let's be honest.
He did a lot of production stuff. I think he owns his own production company now.
Okay. They worked with the WWE for a while there. I remember.
WCW.
Oh, the WCW. Okay.
He's best friends
so he's
with
done
Eric
nothing,
Bischoff.
is what you're saying. Okay.
Wow.
How about some of the weird productions that he's riding the bike through and being chased by security? Some of these lowest budget movie scenes that you've got Godzilla
Tarzan.
And the beach scene. It is just the lowest, but it's like C movies. Dumb. What he should have been doing, which would have made it a little bit more funnier, is if they were going through production scenes of active movies at the time.
Right.
that would have been a little bit more funny. Like when the Twisted Sister video.
Yeah.
You know, they're doing the Burn in Hell video. And
They actually originally wanted to get the Rolling Stones to do it, but they said
There's no way.
good taste prevails, finally.
There is
Right.
no way in hell that the Rolling Stones would ever have applied their
Name.
stuff to
Yeah, but
this.
Twisted Sister was probably the biggest name in hard rock at that particular time.
They were glam rock. They were up there.
They were on the down.
That was their
They
big
hit their
album,
peak.
Stay Hungry. After that, nothing.
Yeah,
Right. But
We're
this
not going to
is-
take it, you know.
Yeah, but this is pinnacle, what, 83, 84, Twisted Sister? Yeah. That's
84. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's
No,
kind of on the downhill. But hey, you know,
the Twisted Sister heyday was like 83. The LA hair metal was starting to take over at this
we
time.
can talk
when this
about
was
that
released.
on our Twisted Sister podcast, which will be premiering
It'd be
here.
a lot more interesting than Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Dee Schneider is a very interesting guy. But
He is. He's actually very
Yes,
intelligent.
very interesting. But I
loved
thought that was
how he
interesting.
stood up to Al Gore's wife.
Oh, yeah.
Made a fool out of her.
Well, doesn't take much in the PMRC meetings, but
The
Stay
Stay
Hungry.
Hungry album was released in May of 1984. And
Right.
this movie was made in 1984 and released in 1985.
right. That's what I'm saying. He was riding the bike through an active.
Right, and I'm saying
Something that
Twisted
was
Sister
popular.
is at its peak here, and
Yeah.
not on the downside, at its peak.
But they're, like you said, they're not the Stones, okay? They're not
No, they're not the
Prince.
Stones. No,
It's not, you
No.
know, Michael Jackson or anything.
but
But,
they are one of the hottest name bands at that time, for
well,
sure.
with MTV, people know who they are.
Oh yeah,
Right.
'cause their
We're not
video
going to take it as huge.
is huge.
So, yes.
Yeah.
But again, he's riding his bike through an active music video scene of a band that's popular at the time. Those stupid stage Godzilla sets and the beach
But
scene
they
and
are
stuff. They're-
making those type of movies in the 80s. They are still making, like, Back to the Beach. They are still making kind of the Godzilla type of movies.
Get
in
the
the
stars.
80s.
Make it look more realistic.
Maybe
you know?
so, but you also have a first-time director and a first-time star. You're not going to put a lot of money into it. I think they put $6 million into the budget here. I don't think they're going to go
Twisted
too
Sister
much
got
more.
like nothing for it, is what you're saying. You
They
know?
probably got $5 million out of the $6
Yeah,
million.
right.
But I understand why they're going with the other things. First of all, they're recognizable. Tarzan's recognizable. Godzilla's recognizable. The beach movies are recognizable. I mean, and I like the fact that they keep on picking up different things. Like
Oh,
You-
Santa
you-
Claus, the little
Yeah. each scene kind of grabs one more person for the chase. And again, it's homages to other movies. And I think that's why we see it here. And that's what Tim Burton's trying to do. He's really big about the past. I mean, his first movie, small film, was Vincent, because it makes a movie about a person who wanted to be Vincent Price. He has a heart for the history of movies.
no rebuttal from Ted.
Sure. That's what you want to think. He does pay homage. I mean, I'll give him that. He does. It doesn't necessarily mean that he's a good director.
For our listeners out there, it is very hard for Ted to find anything nice to say about Tim Burton.
And he
He's
thinks that-
really thinking about this.
He got lucky with Batman.
That is also debatable because I
He
think
was
Batman
not the reason
sucks.
Batman was successful.
Yeah, still sucks though.
Prince, Jack Nicholson, and Michael Keaton are the reason Batman was successful.
well,
Prince,
yeah, I don't know. That's
and
debatable.
and Christy Brinkley,
Batman.
Kim Basinger.
Kim Basinger. That's it.
Oh, I'm like
Christy
Christy
Brinkley.
Brinkley. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got my
Okay.
bombshells
Okay. No, that
confused.
yes. Thank you, Kim Basinger.
Okay. Here we go. I have
Here
to
we
do
go,
this.
everybody.
Tim Burton.
Oh Jesus!
Beetlejuice.
Here we go.
Got lucky. Batman got lucky. Edward Scissorhand got lucky. Ed Wood got lucky. Mars Attack was very successful. I'm not a big fan of that. I know Ted's not a fan of Sleepy Hollow or Planet of the Apes. Big Fish was well received. I think Charlie and the Chocolate Factory is unneeded, but it's okay.
Creepy is what it is.
Highly unneeded.
So
Same with
I mean-
Alice in Wonderland.
he has really good movies here. So to say all this is by luck, if you see this movie, Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, and Batman, and Edward Scissorhands, and Batman Returns, they all had the same
Well,
feel
let's
to it.
stop with Batman Returns.
But they all
Batman
had
Returns.
the same. Is not as good as those other movies. But I'm saying
Batman
they all.
Returns is the worst of the first Batman movies by
No,
far.
no, Batman and Robin is the worst
Well,
by far.
that's Joel Schumacher. That's a whole different.
Well,
That's a
he
whole
only
different
directed two
problematic bag of
movies.
worms.
He only directed the first two, Ted. So,
Stay focused,
and the
gentlemen.
second
Stay
one
focused.
sucked.
But I'm saying all those movies have the same feel. Tim Burton has a certain
That's-
direction.
Exactly. He's a one-trick pony. The one trick that he plays is not funny.
Okay, but it does work for Batman. And it did work for Beetlejuice. It extremely
Here
worked
again,
for
look
Beetlejuice.
at the casts. Look at the casts that he's working with. He's working with in
A-list.
Beetlejuice. He's working with 3 incredible actors. Regardless of what you think about Alec Baldwin, he is a good actor.
He's an incredible
and
actor.
Gina Davis is a good actress.
Not saying that they're not.
And Michael
Keaton is amazing.
But is the feel of the movie a Michael Keaton feel of a movie, or is it a Tim Burton feel of a movie? Beetlejuice is a Tim Burton feel. It feels like a Tim Burton movie. It does not feel like a Michael Keaton movie. Simple as that. It doesn't feel like
I would
Mr.
debate
Mom.
that.
Oh, good.
Here's the thing. Tim Burton is a one-trick pony. I don't like his animation. If we're going to talk about what really catapulted Tim Burton into the stratosphere, it's The Nightmare Before Christmas. And you either love that movie or you hate that movie. And here again, I don't get it. Tim Burton tries to be weird and over the top on purpose all the time. It's a shtick that's old. It's played out, and he is not good as a director.
I might agree with that. It's gotten old, but it doesn't mean that it didn't work at one time.
Edward Scissorhands is not a good movie. I wouldn't be holding that up as something that...
It's not one of my favorite movies, and I love Vincent Price. Like, there's no more, and I'm a big Johnny Depp fan, but I'm not a big fan of that. But I am a big fan of the Beetlejuice movie. I think it's an incredible movie.
Yeah, Beetlejuice is good.
But you're saying it's only good because of the actors that are in it, and I'll tell you it's because of the style.
It's good writing, and he wasn't the writer. He didn't write Beetlejuice. He directed it. And here again, it's when you look at the writers of these movies too. Yeah, he put his thing on, but here's another reason that Batman movie is successful. And I'm glad we're talking about Batman rather than Pee-wee, because Pee-wee's insufferable. But the reason Batman works is because Tim Burton is a dark director, and Batman is a dark character. That's why it works.
So you are saying that he did well in the Batman movie.
It was, he found a niche right there that worked. Beetlejuice is a quasi-horror movie.
Yeah, but it's got the dark humor in that as well. He's a dark humor type of guy. I'm not saying that Pee-wee's better than those two movies. I like the humor here of Pee-wee's Big Adventure. I think it's a good combination. I think they work really well together.
The part of the movie that he put his stamp on is obviously the Large Marge part, where she does the freak out, and that's probably, like I said, that's probably my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, and actually that whole sequence with like the dinosaurs and everything, the coloring and stuff like that feels like Tim Burton type of movie right there. And then, I mean, it's his first time out as a director. We might not see what he ends up becoming, but it's still a pretty good film, especially for the fact that you have a lot of no-name actors here. People have had limited screen time on the big screen, and he's making it work. I enjoy this movie very much, and I think we should go to the reviews.
I think that's a great place to go is to the reviews. So why don't I kick it off? I go with Sean Burns at WBUR's Art and Culture section, I guess, of WBUR. He says, this movie, it's basically a John Waters movie for kids. And I think that sums it up pretty well. You obviously have to know the director, John Waters. But if you do, you can definitely see the similarities of this, because this movie is geared towards kids with a little bit of an adult skew to it. But I can definitely see that. This movie definitely got me thinking. I hadn't seen this movie in quite some time. It's kind of a mixed bag for me. I like Paul Reubens' stuff post Pee-wee Herman. I like his acting in the movies he done. I've said many times that he was nominated, I believe, for an award, television award, Emmy, Grammy. I don't know what it is. I can't think. But for
Emmys. He's won 14 Emmys, I think.
The only time he was nominated, I believe he won, I'm not sure, for a non-Pee-wee Herman related character as the sniveling nephew of the TV president in the sitcom Murphy Brown. I think he had 6 cameos in that, and he was just incredible in that role. It was funny. And granted, you have to like the Murphy Brown TV show, but if you do, you're going to like that. And I highly encourage you maybe to catch some YouTube clips of that if you see it. But for me, this movie's a mixed bag. I don't hate it, but don't really like it. It's got 1 or 2 sight gags that I thought were really funny. But other than that, the movie's a little creepy for my taste. Just not my thing. For me, this movie is gonna be 2 hooks, maybe 2.5, but I'm leaning more towards 2. Yeah, we're gonna go with 2 hooks on this one. Ted, I think you're probably gonna sum it up in 1 word, I assume.
So the critic that I went with was Paul Anastasio from the Washington Post. The sum up of his review is, Pee-wee's Big Adventure isn't a movie, but a collection of found objects from the garbage heap of low culture. And I couldn't sum it up any better. This movie is just it's a mess. It has no real point of existing. I don't find it funny. I'm glad that there are people that find it funny, because people need to laugh in today's day and age. I will never watch this movie again unless I'm being tortured by terrorists. If I'm ever in a standoff situation with the police, this is what they would blare over the radio to get me to come out of the house. It's nails on a chalkboard. I don't like Pee Wee Herman. Paul Reubens is an amazing actor. I think his post-Pee Wee stuff, he did some of his best work there. I can't give him enough credit for his role in Blow with Johnny Depp. If you've not seen Blow, that's a great movie, and he plays an amazing part in that movie. But I don't get this humor. There's little redeeming parts of this movie. It's an hour and a half of my life I'll never get back. For me, it's 1 hook, and that's being generous.
I didn't think he'd give it 1 hook. I thought he'd give it 0, to be honest with you. Surprise.
Don't give him any ideas.
Don't give him any ideas. All right. Ken, take us home on your review.
Well, first of all, I want to tell Ted that the part he was thinking about was Cheech and Chong's next movie. That was where he played the desk clerk.
Gotcha.
So my review comes from Ted's muse, Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert at the movies, on their Guilty Pleasure episode, stated, "I was surprised how innocent, how playful, how truly eccentric Pee Wee Herman really is. This movie is not just a strange little man acting goofy. Pee Wee has created a whole fairy tale universe, as consistent and as fascinating as Alice's Wonderland or the works of the hobbits in The Lord of the Rings. Pee Wee's Big Adventure is like the Wizard of Oz that kids could look at in one state of mind, where grown-ups can enjoy it on a completely different level."
Roger was obviously taking acid at that time.
Well, he probably was, because he probably liked it. I enjoy this. It brings out the kid in me, and I love having that little inner kid in me show up whenever I can, because I enjoyed my childhood. I like Pee Wee. He's kind of got an innocence to him, and sometimes I kind of wish I was kind of like that. A guy who carefree and just can wake up and just have fun with his life. You know, he seems to really enjoy every day that comes to him, especially because he has, something that he loves, like his bike.
No cares in the world, apparently.
No cares in the world. It's kind of like the adult we wish we could be, no responsibility, no job, no bills. The only thing you have to worry about is keeping people's hands off your bike, and he's got girls that like him. What isn't to like about Pee Wee Herman? I enjoy this movie. I think it's a great first time out for Tim Burton as far as a full feature film. I think Paul Reubens is a very gifted actor, and I think Pee Wee Herman, the character, is a well thought out character, and I'm very happy that I had that as part of my life. The sequels weren't as good. Big Top Pee Wee wasn't as good. It had a missing element. We were talking about earlier about how everybody seems to love Pee Wee in this movie. Everybody dislikes Pee Wee in that movie. And then you have Pee Wee's Big Holiday, which isn't terrible. It's just, at that time, maybe a little too old to still be playing Pee Wee. I'm going to go with 4 hooks on this movie. I will watch it again and again and again. Who knows? Maybe I'll even have it playing at my funeral in the background. So when Ted visits my casket, he can hear Pee Wee Herman's voice in the background.
I'm forgetting. 5 hooks? 4 hooks? What do we do it based on?
Up to 5 hooks.
Okay, so you didn't give it a perfect score, thank God. Okay, great.
No, there's a lot more better movies than this, but it's still a very solid movie.
Okay, well, we're across the board on this one. We have Ken, who worships at the ground of Pee Wee Herman. I could give or take it. And Ted thinks he's a pedophile. So we are just across the board here. That's okay. That's why we all have differing opinions. Well, next movie, unfortunately, we lost a great actor, great TV actor, great film actor, someone that maybe a lot of people are not terribly familiar with. I don't know if he would be considered an A-list celebrity at this time, and I know me and Ken love to debate A, B, and C celebrities, but the actor Carl Weathers passed away, and we are going to be dedicating our next podcast. We were talking about movies, which one to do, and we're going to go with Rocky IV. Of course, Carl Weathers, Apollo Creed, through all those movies, and the Creed series, obviously came out a couple years later, very popular. So we are going to review Rocky IV, Stallone and Carl Weathers, going back to 1985, same year as Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I would say this, not an A-list actor.
Here we go.
But a name that people know. People know the name of Carl Weathers. Either they know him from the Rocky series, Predator, Happy Gilmore, or The Mandalorian. People know the name of Carl Weathers. He's maybe a B actor, but he is a well-known B actor.
I debate that with you. I think people know, hey, look, it's Apollo Creed. I debate that a lot of people do not know the name Carl Weathers, which is not right, but I would be surprised if 10 people, if 5 of them could name Carl Weathers. I would be extremely surprised. But that's here nor there. The man has passed. He had a great career, and we are going to be celebrating one of his movies. Ted, tell us where they can find us on the World Wide Web.
We can be found on Twitter at hookedon_movies. You can join us there for discussions on movies and look to see what's coming up or what's been released. And whatever podcast version you're listening to us on, whether it be Good Pods, Apple, Spotify, if you can, leave us a 5-star review and write something nice. Tell us what you think about Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It just helps us get noticed.
Tell us. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And Facebook, we got a great following there on Facebook, Ken, don't we?
Yes, we have a nice little group here, and feel free to join our Facebook page, Hooked on Movies, discuss movies, watch trailers, just get into discussions about practically anything that has to do with movies.
Cool. All right. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Hooked on Movies. Join us next episode where we'll be looking at Rocky IV, celebrating the life of Carl Weathers. And as always...
He dies. Too soon?
No. Wow. Well, maybe too soon.
Here's the thing. Any movie that we try to pick from Carl Weathers, he basically died in it. Happy Gilmore died. Predator died. Rocky IV died.
Did he die in Action Jackson? He didn't, did he?
No, he didn't, but the movie died.
The movie is a bomb.
Career kind of did.
Yeah. So we're not doing Action Jackson, that's for sure.
No.
There's a movie no one saw.
I saw it.
I saw it too. I saw it for Apollonia, so I have my
ulterior
motives.
I saw it basically because he was Apollo Creed, and I wanted to see it.
Yeah. All right. Well, as always, this means something, and I'm talking about our podcast.
See you at the movies.
See you next time on Hooked on Movies.